Good afternoon, everyone. I am Carmen Blair, the Deputy Director of the San Mateo County Historical Association, and I would like to welcome you to today's Courthouse Docket. The Courthouse Docket is a monthly series of lectures and performances that is usually held in historic Courtroom A. However, we have moved our programs online due to COVID-19. One note on logistics. If you have questions, please type them into the Q&A box, not the chat. We will be taking a few of the questions at the end of the program. One of the exhibits at the History Museum is Land of Opportunity, the Immigrant Experience in San Mateo County. As part of the renovation of this exhibit in 2019, we invited each of the largest immigrant groups in the county to create a display illustrating one way the group remembers its culture. Working with the San Mateo OCA and other members of the community, a beautiful display on Lunar New Year was created as part of the exhibit. Now, usually on a Saturday in February, the History Museum participates in Redwood City's Lunar New Year celebration. When it became obvious that the usual in-person event was not going to occur this year, I reached out to Jeff G. to see what might be possible for us on an online format. This panel discussion was the result. A member of the Redwood City Council, Jeff has organized the Redwood City Lunar New Year celebration for 11 years. At this time, I'd like to ask Jeff to start our discussion on the Lunar New Year.
Great, Carmen, great to see you. And Happy New Year, everybody. Gong hei fa choi. Happy Lunar New Year. Welcome to the Year of the Ox. And it's hard to believe that we started this partnership 11 years ago. And that means I have one more animal to go to make it through the entire zodiac cycle here with the Chinese calendar. My partners today are OCA San Mateo, and before I turn it over to our guest speakers, you know, the fun part is the parts that we see, the lion dance, the red envelopes, the clothes, and the food. But one of the most important things behind all of this, excuse me, are the stories and the culture. And today, we're gonna learn about the stories behind all of these symbolisms that we usually see in front of us, about the stories about which animal came first, the symbolism with the red envelopes and some of the traditional foods that we use to celebrate this great important family holiday in the Asian culture. So with that, I want to turn over to and introduce Jenny Kaminsky with OCA San Mateo, who's a great partner and great friend, and all of my friends on the panel today, to introduce OCA San Mateo and start us off, because we've got some great stories to tell, some great history to share, and hopefully pass on some of these customs to different generations in front of us. So Jenny, take it away. And Jenny, I think you're on mute because I can't quite hear you, so.
Can you hear me now, Jeff?
Now we can hear you. There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your friendship and your warm welcome. We're really honored to be here today. I'm joining Jeff as president of OCA San Mateo. OCA San Mateo, our chapter was established in 1987, and it's one of the 4 chapters in the Bay Area and one of 7 chapters in California. We're a national nonprofit, non-partisan civil rights and advocacy, as well as educational organization, and we're dedicated to embracing the hopes, aspirations, and to advancing the social, political, and economic well-being of American Chinese and Pacific Islanders and those of Asian descent. I'm joined today and thrilled to be joined today also by fellow board members and interns from OCA San Mateo. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Selene Wong, a fellow board member, and also Aimee Yan, another board member, and our lovely intern. Her name is Emily Gao. Emily, say hi to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple of questions for my fellow board members. And so we're going to start off with Selene. Selene, I have a question for you. What exactly is the history behind Chinese Lunar New Year and all the celebrations?
Well, Jenny, Chinese New Year is also known as the Lunar New Year or Spring Festival because it is celebrated on the traditional Chinese calendar relating to the full moon for the new year. It occurs sometime between mid-January and mid-February. It began about 3,800 years ago in China during the Han Dynasty, that is 202 BC to 220 AD. When Emperor Wu Di commanded to use the lunar calendar. It is certainly a family affair, a time of reunion and Thanksgiving. The biggest event of the Chinese New Year's Eve is the dinner for every family member with lots and lots of food. Even specialty dishes will be made just for that one event. It seems like many other cultures center around family gathering and food, so we can all relate. Also, according to tales and legends, the beginning of the Chinese New Year started with a fight against a mystical beast called Nian. Nian would arrive on the first day of the new year to devour livestock, crops, and especially children. To protect themselves, the villagers put food in front of the doors at the beginning of the year. It was believed that after Nian ate the food they prepared, it wouldn't attack any more people. Once the people saw that Nian was scared away by a child wearing a red color outfit. So henceforth, we would hang red lanterns, red spring schools on the windows and doors. People also used firecrackers to frighten away the Nian. From then on, Nian never came to the village again.
Wow, Selene, thank you for sharing that. That's rather frightening to hear. Selene, what is the story behind the zodiac signs? Why are there animals associated with each year?
Whenever Chinese New Year is mentioned, the first thing that comes to the minds of most people is, what year is it? This is in reference to the animal representation for that year. The designation is usually explained with a simple story that a long time ago, Buddha called together all the animals to help guard and protect the year. Of all the animals, only 12 answered the call. In order to establish an orderly sequence, a race was called. In the race, the ox would have taken the honor of taking first place had it not been for the clever and cunning rat who rode on back of the ox and jumped forward at the finish line to steal the top award. Now, every creature in the zodiac represents a personality or character traits people born in that year are supposed to have. People born in the year of the ox are reliable, strong, fair, patient, kind, methodical, and trustworthy. But however, not all traits are positive. Oxens are also opinionated and stubborn.
Thank you, Selene. That's really wonderful. I appreciate your sharing that.
So Jenny, what year are you? What animal are you?
I'm the rat!
So you came first last year because the rat was the first animal. So the ox is the second. So there you go. It's okay. We're all one of the 12 animals. It's all good.
Thank you, Jeff. Aimee, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. I heard a rumor that you're excellent at preparing many things, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about the Chinese Lunar New Year traditions. Can you tell me how you prepare for the New Year?
Of course. In the preparation for the new year, families will be giving their homes a thorough cleaning, hoping to sweep away all the ill fortune to allow the incoming good luck to arrive. So doors and windows will be decorated with different paper cutouts. And this is just some words here in Chinese, but they would hang these or post them on the doors and or windows. And they would post these couplets, and you can see some behind me. They would always come in a pair. And this one, and all of them have special meanings. This one says, 龙马精神, which means, may you have the energy of the dragon and the horse. So they're all auspicious sayings, okay? The color red, and you can see I'm wearing red here. The color red has always been associated with good luck for a long time, definitely since the Tang Dynasty. And in order to start off the year with something sweet, it's really important to prepare a tray of candy. These are different types of lotus, candied lotus, lotus seeds, winter melon, what else is here? Coconut. And these are just some things that you would give to your guests when they arrive. And it would just mean that you're wishing them to have a sweet new year. Okay, let me see. I also wanted to talk about the lotus here. I have a lotus flower here. And I talked about lotus candies, and this is lotus seed, as you can see. The lotus has, the lotus flower is a symbol of purity, enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth. That's why it's a very lovely symbol. It's the perfect analogy for the human condition, because when the roots are in the dirtiest of water, the flower blossoms and becomes the most beautiful you've seen. Okay, so that's why lotus is very important in Chinese culture. Behind me, you will also see that I have some decorations, and this is a plum blossom, as well as flowers. You can see that I have my house decorated nicely with a tray of oranges and pomelos, tangerines. And here's my candy tray right there. And I just also wanted to show you my oxen here. This is my lovely jade ox for the year of the ox. And this is an ingot. It's called an ingot, and it's a representation of a bullion or Chinese gold. Okay, so that's an ancient currency, and we like to decorate it with it because it reminds us of money. And I talked about the pomelo. This is a pomelo, and it's you can see the color is like gold. So it represents, just as with the oranges, it represents wealth and luck and good fortune. And in Cantonese, pomelo sounds like luk yao, which means to have abundance, fortune, and prosperity.
Aimee,
Yes.
Aimee, I got a question for you, because as you showed the oranges and the mandarins and the pomelo, you had the green leaves with it too. And that's just as important as along with the fruit too. Can you dive into why the leaves and the branches are important, particularly during the new year?
Yeah, you can just see that, the color of leaves is green, and green always symbolizes new growth, rebirth, new, right? New growth, and that's always something we want to focus on during the Chinese New Year, something new, rebirth. And also it symbolizes money too, right? Green color. So that's that. We always have it attached with the plant itself. See, the more leaves, the better, in fact. So how is Chinese New Year celebrated? In China, that it's a very large country, so the customs might vary from region to region, but the spirit underlying the New Year celebration remains the same, and that's to wish everybody peace and happiness. My family is from Guangzhou, which is Canton, China, close to Hong Kong, and we have celebrations that might be different than people who are from Northern China or from Taiwan. But generally, the relatives will always come and visit each other during the Chinese New Year, bringing things like cakes or dim sum or biscuits or fruits. And when families come and visit each other, they would present these beautiful red envelopes, right? And see how beautiful they are? They're usually filled with crisp new dollar bills or $10 or whatever you would like to put in there, but everything has to be new. So we like to put new bills in these and present it to, the married people would present it to children or people who are single. So even if you're 80 years old and you're single, you would still get one of these. But when you're married, you give, you don't receive anymore. Okay, so that's the thing with the red envelopes. So the symbolic giving of money, just it's a representation that you wish good fortune and wealth for the recipient for the coming year. So if I give you red envelopes, that means you're going to get more money and wealth in the year to come.
But Aimee, it's not
yes.
just one red envelope. You give 2 red envelopes to people, and there's a reason for that, right?
Yes, everything comes in pairs. Everything's in pairs. You can see my couplets are in pairs and double. That's what's very important. You always have not just one, but you have double of everything, double happiness, double red envelopes.
I love that. You know, studies show that people are less likely to spend new bills and more likely to save them of every culture. So I think that's really fantastic to hear. Thank you for sharing about that. And I want to get myself one of those pomelos. Where can I go? I want to try one of those. Looks really good.
They have them all over Chinatown, and they're very expensive during this time of year.
Jenny, just a quick introduction. Jenny, if you could talk a little louder, some people are having trouble hearing you.
Yes, sorry. I will do my best to project. I appreciate that. I'm actually sharing internet connection with Selene. So hopefully this is going well. I have a question for you, Aimee. You told us in great detail about so many wonderful things that you do to prepare, but are there things you're not supposed to do for the Chinese Lunar New Year?
Yeah, there's things that you're supposed to do, and then there's things that you shouldn't be doing. So I'm going to talk about some of the superstitions around Chinese New Year. And you have to understand that Chinese New Year traditions have been practiced for a long time, thousands of years, way before there was any science. And so there were a lot of myths and superstitions that people believed in and followed based on their experiences, associations, or just stories that had been passed down through the many, many generations. And sometimes it sort of got altered along the way. So that's why, regionally, there's differences in how the traditions are celebrated, because things just sort of mutated, okay? But interestingly, there's been recent developments that show that your thoughts and your behaviors can actually create a desired outcome. So if you think, say, or do positive things, you will have a positive outcome because it becomes top of mind, and then you start to focus on the positive, right? That makes sense. So during this time of Chinese New Year, you would just refrain from saying bad things or use foul language or unlucky words. If you cry on New Year's Day, you would cry all throughout the rest of the year, and that wouldn't be good. So you never cry. Okay, during Chinese New Year, it's always about happiness. All debts are to be paid before the New Year. Nothing should be lent on New Year's Day, because that would mean that you'd be lending and borrowing for the rest of the year, and that would not be good. All brooms, dustpans are to be put away on New Year's Eve, because sweeping the floor on New Year's Day means that your good fortune will be swept away, and that would not be good. We don't use knives, we don't use scissors on New Year's Day, because this may cut your fortune short, because the Cantonese word for haircut happens to sound like jinfat. That happens to sound like cutting away your fortune. So we don't cut our hair in the New Year, we cut it before the New Year. In the villages, at the stroke of midnight, every door and window in the house would be open to allow the old year to go out. But now we all live in cities, and it just would not be practical or safe to do that in modern times. When you have visitors come during Chinese New Year, it's not a good idea. It's very unlucky to greet someone in their bedroom. So that's why even if you're sick, you have to come out to the living room. You have to get dressed up in your new clothes, your red clothes, and sit and greet your guests. That's very important. So that's pretty much most of the traditions.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate your sharing that. I actually want to hear a little bit from our intern, Emily. Emily, my question for you is, would you be willing to share some personal experiences or any stories you have about growing up with some of these traditions?
Yeah, of course, totally. So my family would always be in a really frenzied rush to clean the house before the new year. Like Aimee mentioned previously, you know, it's a very big deal to have the house all clean for the new year so that good things can come your way. I would often wait till the last minute to clean. It wasn't really a great thing, but I couldn't really help it. My mother would often chase me down with a Swiffer sweeper or like a broom or a mop and demanding that I clean before the new year, because also, as Aimee mentioned, it's not great to clean during the new year. We want to put away all the mops, all the cleaning materials on the day of the new year. So the house would always be very, very lively with cooking and cleaning and all kinds of preparations for the spring. It's kind of like a comforting frenzy that happens every year. And in a way, this chaos can denote the start of the spring for me. As the youngest of the family, I'm always guaranteed some red packets, which is always good news for me. And I'm always told to sleep with the red packets under my pillow at night as a good omen and for good luck. I actually have a few of them right here that I fished out of my pillow. You can see I received them in pairs, as Aimee mentioned, and these are the Hongbao, and you can see here it has a Chinese character Fu, which means basically good luck or fortune. And another superstition is that you shouldn't open the Hongbao in front of the person that gave it to you. So you always have to like kind of have the suspense and waiting until a bit after until you can open and see what's inside and see what you received. Another thing we would do is we would always watch the CCTV Chunwan, which is basically the New Year Gala broadcast on CCTV, which is the China Global Television Network. It's a really, really huge event that takes place in China, but it's streamed everywhere. So we're able to watch it in California, in the US. And the show has the largest audience of any entertainment show in the world, which is pretty cool. There are hours and hours of like dancers and singers and all kinds of huge performances that are shown on the night of the Lunar New Year, so the eve. And it's always really fun after a long day of eating and celebrating with my relatives to kind of gather together and end the night with some really, really cool performances.
That sounds amazing. After the pandemic, you might find me at your doorstep. I want to watch some of that TV with you. That sounds amazing. Aimee, we had a lot of discussion about some fruits, but I want to hear more about other traditional foods that might be eaten during this celebration.
There's plenty. Well, first thing I want to talk about, if I have time, is talk about the lion dancing. Do you want to hear about lion dancing?
Yay, I do.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to show this book that I used to read to my kids when they were young, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring it out. So the lions are considered a protector and an emblem of valor, energy, and wisdom. So it's a very important animal. Okay, the lion. The lion dance is a form of art. It's an art form and a popular tradition during weddings, as well as Chinese New Year, weddings, birthdays. You would often hire a lion dance troupe to come in and celebrate to your celebration. And the lion dance represents change, good fortune, and prosperity. That's why they're very popular during these special events. And the purpose of the lion dance is to ward off evil with all the loud noise making, and that would bring good luck. Okay, when you have a lion at your celebration. So, and if you've been to a lion dance in Chinatown during Chinese New Year, you'll be hearing a lot of noise, right? I don't know if you can, yeah, you can hear the cymbal, drums, gongs. It's a very loud event, and this is the lion, and the eyelids, the mouth, the ears, they all can move. There's a martial artist here. There's two guys back here. Okay, one that's holding up the head and one that's in the back. And that's a tough job in the back. Okay, that's a very tough job because you have to like bend over, and you can't really, you have to follow the lead of the main martial artist here. Okay, and it takes a lot of training to be a lion dancer. It's very difficult. They do all types of feats. They can like leap together, and it's amazing. You can see some of the most amazing lion dancing on YouTube. The lion is usually led by this Buddha right here that's holding a fan. And he's leading and teasing the lion, and he's interacting with the crowd playfully, and what's the highlight? The highlight is the Buddha will lead the lion to in front of a business. They would have lettuce with a red envelope, and they would hang it from the top to the entrance, and the lion would be coming. And this is called the Ching Choi Ching, or the picking off the green. And we talked about greens earlier, and the green refers to the lettuce leaves, and the lettuce leaves, sang choi. It's a symbol of life. Sang, that's life. Okay, it's a symbol of life and wealth and longevity, and it's hung on a string off of a stick along with the red envelope. And as the lion will be coming, and he will be attempting to eat this lettuce here, which he would open his mouth and he starts chomping on the leaves as the drummers play a rolling crescendo. And after chewing the leaves and the red envelope, the lion will explode back into activity and spit out the leaves towards the audience. And this is the symbolic act of blessing by the lion. Okay, let me just skip back here. Oops. Yeah, so when he spits it out and just throws the lettuce towards the audience, it's just a blessing. And it signifies that there will be an abundance of everything in the coming year for everybody. So that's sort of interesting and fun. So it's always, you always see the Buddha along with the drummers and the percussion team. And it's just, there's lots of noise and firecrackers popping, and it's just loud. And the firecrackers are meant to drive away any evil spirits and usher in good omens. Okay, so that's the lion dance, which is very important in Chinese New Year celebrations.
Thank you so much for sharing about the lion dance. I didn't know any of that, but I guess I hope for the next celebration I can find a lion that will spit lettuce in my direction. That's amazing. But speaking of lettuce, are there any other foods that we should be aware of for the Chinese?
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism. You know, there's a lot of symbolism. The lettuce is it's a very important symbol because it's sang choi, which means the vegetable of life. Okay, that's what it means. But there's many other foods that are very symbolic. And so on Chinese New Year's Eve, the families will enjoy a dinner together and have symbolic foods like fish, which in Cantonese, it means yu, and that means always having leftover, always having more. So that's what the word means, to have extra all the time. They'll also have a chicken, a whole chicken, which includes the head, the tail, and the feet, everything intact. And that's to symbolize completeness with a beginning and an end, and nothing is missing. And this symbolizes that the family is all together and reunited. Nobody is missing. Okay, so that's very important, the family. Another common dish that's eaten on New Year's Day is something called Buddha's Delight, or lo hon zai. And that's, it's based on Buddhist belief, because Buddhism it was a strong force for China. That if you eat, that you should eat vegetarian diet on the first few days of the New Year's as a form of purification. Okay, so lo hon zai is a very popular Chinese New Year dish. There's also other foods. So other foods with special meanings, and it's believed that if a food has the same sound, a homonym, it has the same sound, or it looks like something that's good or auspicious, then it will confer that characteristic onto you. So let me just show you some foods here, okay? Like, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, these are lotus seeds. I told you earlier that lotus is a very important plant in Chinese culture. So the seeds represent fertility. So that's why you saw the candied lotus, and you see lotus in cooking, as a cooking ingredient in many dishes, because it's a good symbol, fertility. And Chinese families love children very much, okay? So that's the, that would be the lotus and the lotus seed, but okay. Okay, I was talking about the Buddha's Delight. So it's Buddha's Delight is vegetarian. So they use a lot of different types of ingredients. I don't know if you can see this, but this is bean curd sticks. It's made out of soybean, and tofu you are familiar with, right? That's soybean too, soybean curd as well. You know, soybean can be made into so many different types of foods. You know, you heard about soy sauce, just a lot of things. You can make soybean in sheets as well, okay? Sheets as well as sticks. So that's a food that's used a lot. It's a vegetarian food, so it's used to make this Buddha's Delight. And there's some kind of bread here. This is called bean vermicelli. Vermicelli is sort of like this very thin, translucent type of noodle. I don't know if you can see this. Let me give you a close-up. See, can you see some of that? Yeah, so the vermicelli is a popular ingredient in Chinese cooking, and especially in this Buddha's Delight. It's made out of beans, mung beans to be exact. Okay, and of course here, mushrooms and all types of very interesting dried ingredients. This on the bottom here is it's lily buds. So it's gum jum. That's also symbolic of golden needles. That's what it's called in Chinese. And another ingredient is gluten balls. I know people are really like against gluten nowadays, and some people can't tolerate it, but gluten is actually a very good source of protein, but some people just can't tolerate it. But gluten is a very nutritious, it's a good source of protein, okay? But some people can't tolerate it, so that's understandable. Some other Chinese New Year, okay. So of course you see here is, you know, we call it pot stickers. These are Chinese dumplings with some meat filling. And a lot of the northern Chinese people would eat this during the Chinese New Year. And it looks like what I showed you earlier, this currency, Chinese currency, that's called an ingot. So it sort of reminds you of that, right? So that's why Northerners like to eat dumplings. But I remember when I was young, my mother would make these cupcakes, and the Chinese it's called fat go, and that's to represent to rise and prosper. That's what it literally means, to rise and prosper. And of course, you want your year to be prosperous. Okay. And another common food is turnip cake. That's very common during Chinese New Year. Turnip cake made out of white turnips. And let me see here. Another food that you see is on top here is red bean cake. That's also very popular with northern people. But the ones that my mother from southern China would make would be the one on the bottom, which is made out of glutinous rice flour, as well as brown sugar. It's very simple, actually, but it's really gooey because it's made out of that glutinous rice flour. It's really gooey and chewy. And it's called Lin Go, which is just a play on the word that we want the word to be, you want your year to be prosperous or getting better, right? Lin Go is always improving and getting better. Another common food here is these kind of glutinous rice balls. And you can get an idea that round is a nice, it's a good shape, right? Auspicious shape, because round doesn't have an end, so it's always smooth and it never ends. So that's why people like round things. Okay, so you eat these round glutinous balls, you will have a smooth life.
Thank you, Aimee. I really appreciate your sharing all that. I
do have one more thing. I wanted to talk about this plate of, this is called pun choi. That's also very common now. You can order these at restaurants, and it's sort of like a one-pot meal. And families from Taiwan would have something like this, pun choi. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Carmen, if you invite us back next year, it sounds like we need to do a cooking program along
I
with.
think so.
Definitely, definitely.
I would agree with that.
As well as we should probably do a Chinatown tour, because some of the oldest stores in Chinatown, like Eastern Bakery, which is my favorite, has a number of these delicacies and pastries that you don't even have to cook. You just need to find the store, and whether they're the gluten balls or jin doi or dan tat. I mean, Eastern Bakery is well known for some of their delicacies, and they've been around for a very long time. And so that sounds like another program where we can do a tour of Chinatown, San Francisco.
Jeff, count me in.
Yeah, usually 2 weeks into the new year, families and the different family associations will gather for a 10-course banquet at a restaurant, and that's to welcome the new year with generous portions of auspiciously named dishes. And it's just another great opportunity to eat more, right? So that's always good. And it's important to be more generous during the new year. So having too much food, too much of anything, everything is always better than having too little. Okay, so that just means that you always have more than you could eat, more than you can have or enjoy. So that's a good thing, and it ties in with the theme of abundance.
Well, that's what I've always said, Aimee, is that between Thanksgiving and Chinese New Year, you cannot diet. There's no way you can diet with all the food and all the holidays. So once Chinese New Year is over, Lunar New Year is over, now we can all start dieting.
Yes. Well, I don't particularly enjoy dieting, but let's talk about some remembrances of days gone by with Chinese Lunar New Year celebrations. Selene, I'd love to hear some things you remember.
Certainly, Jen. As you know, we are very fortunate to live in the San Francisco Bay Area and the state of California with such diversity. My parents would annually take my siblings and I to see the San Francisco Chinese Parade on Grant Avenue. We would hear the firecrackers going off, pop, pop, and I would cover my ears to protect from feeling scared. Then we would smell the aftersmoke of the explosion of the firecrackers. Unfortunately, I still remember that this event was usually held on a very cold or rainy evening. So Mom and Dad would take us to that Eastern bakery and get us sake ma, which is like our Chinese version of Rice Krispies, which I know you like, Jen.
I do.
There were large crowds of attendees filling the street line, watching the beautiful decorated floats, the lion dances, the school marching bands with music, etc., etc. Sometimes it was difficult to see through the crowd if we did not have a good spot viewing the parade. Well, at least until I grew 5'10". Then I could see most of anything passing us by. Another remembrance during the festive celebration was our mother always took my younger sister and I to the Miss San Francisco Chinatown pageant. Apparently, 1 or 2 family members were contestants in the past. So I think my mother wanted to instill pride in us that Asian women could be represented in these competitions. But we never took the bait to enter.
I think you might have done very well if you had.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Selene, why is it important to share these stories of the parade and of the celebrations and the food? Why should we talk about this and pass it on?
Well, it's important to my family, especially to pass on all cultural information, all habits, all having family gatherings, because we have been in the United States for 5 generations. We have instilled in every generation in children the respect of elders and the strong unity of family. It continues, we pass it on, pass it on. And such cultural traditions such as celebrating Chinese New Year. And of course, the children have their hands open for the red envelopes, lots of red envelopes. Proof of this is that our Wong family hosts a family reunion about every 3 years, whether it's in the East Coast or the West Coast, with about 200 attending. So all this passing on of cultural celebration allows us to keep our ethnic identity, pride, and build a sense of Asian community.
Thank you, Selene. That was beautiful. I love it.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to see the next Wong family reunion family photo.
Next year, 2022, you're all welcome.
Thank you. Emily, how about you? I'd like to hear from a younger person's perspective. Why is this important to pass on?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very easy for a lot of young people to kind of get further and further away from their heritage over time. As like generations continue, it's very easy for you to like lose some aspects of your culture. And I think Lunar New Year gives us a really great opportunity to celebrate our identities and spend time with our families. Because family is such an important aspect of Asian and Chinese culture and respect and tradition. It's very, very important to unite as like a family and a community to celebrate your roots and your ancestry and realize that your identity is beautiful through this lively and wonderful event. And you can't really help but feel proud of your own heritage every single year. At least for me, that's how I always feel after Lunar New Year. I feel a sense of pride and like resonance with my identity. And I think it's great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. Aimee, what about you? Why is this important?
Well, you know, America is, it's a country with a blend of many peoples continuing to come together from all parts of the world through immigration. We're living more and more in a global society now. So we really need to practice cultural humility and try to understand people's deeply rooted cultural practices and traditions so that we can relate to them better. And of course, it's always a great reason to celebrate and delight in all kinds of foods and festivals with your friends and your coworkers and your family. And that's always a good thing.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, Jeff, you had asked me yesterday to share some of my thoughts about this topic, so I'll take the liberty of doing that now.
Yes.
It's been such a privilege to be here today and to be joined by my esteemed colleagues, to be on this panel and to learn more about the Chinese Lunar New Year. I even learned new things today. I didn't realize you had to give envelopes in pairs, for example. And, that's really great. I didn't know about the pomelo leaves. So I've learned even more than that just in speaking with all of you today. And I feel it's more important than ever that we all come together to share about food, culture, traditions. There's a really rich history and heritage here. And I think it's really important that we all share, especially in light of the increased anti-Asian sentiment and expressions of racism that we've been seeing. It's so important that we all come together and share our traditions so the next generation and others, even if they have a different background, have an opportunity to learn. And then it becomes more familiar and we have a chance to share history and information. To be honest, I think all ethnic groups come together around food and family and conversation, and this is a common denominator for everyone. And I think it's a tradition that unites us. I just love being here, being part of OCA San Mateo, learning more, and I invite you to be curious and hungry with me.
Very good, Jenny. And going back to what Emily shared and the question you asked about everybody about the importance, there's so many more traditions that we owe it to pass on, whether it's Lunar New Year, as we've talked about today. There's so many traditions about when you get married. There's even traditions about who gets engaged first in your family between your brother or your sister. And some of you may have heard about hanging out the pants, depending on, if the eldest son gets engaged first and things like that, or the traditions around when a baby's born or when someone's passing. And we need to pass those on to our generations. And Carmen, this is a great opportunity to be able to record this session and make it available for others. And I think we have a few minutes left, Carmen, if I'm right, for any questions. And there may be some questions from those that have signed on today. So we take it away and field some questions for the group.
Yes, there are certainly some questions that came in. One of the first questions was, how is the date of Lunar New Year determined with the Western calendar?
Aimee, take it away.
It really isn't. I'll start with that.
It's a lunar calendar, so it's a different cycle, and I think this year is considered 4,719. So they've been counting this lunar year for like 4,719 times already. It's shorter than the Gregorian calendar, and when it began, it's I think it was more related to the harvest time. And so, and I think there's some detail on it. I have to go look it up, but it's a different calendar based on the cycles of the moon, and the way it started was related to farming, harvesting.
You're absolutely right, Aimee. It's all tied to the lunar cycle, and so there's no connection to the Gregorian calendar. So that's why I have to go look every year. When Carmen emails me and says, Jeff, when's Lunar New Year next year? I've got to go look it up, because it can be as early as in mid-January or as late February. And it will move based on the lunar cycle and the lunar calendar.
And how long does the celebration of Lunar New Year last each year?
Supposedly it's a 2-week celebration after Chinese New Year. After it starts, the first day of the first day would be the New Year, and then it's celebrated for 2 weeks. And then after that is another festival called the Lantern Festival. So that's another celebration. But the Chinese New Year celebration itself is 2 weeks of eating, visiting friends. So you have lots of time to really enjoy and celebrate and wish all your friends and families good fortune and prosperity.
There's a question if any of you have suggestions about books, TV shows, documentaries, or movies about the Lunar New Year that you would recommend that people watch or read.
There's a lot on YouTube. You know, there's so much on YouTube. If you type in Lunar New Year, you just find tons of videos, you know, made by people in China or even people in the US. And there's just so much out there now that you can look up just even through YouTube. You don't have to buy a book at all. You just go to YouTube. There's a lot.
I have a question about the clothes worn. Is there anything specific besides wearing red?
It just has to be new. So, you know, you wear new clothes. New, everything should be new because it's a new year. So it's just to symbolize that everything is new and we have a new beginning. So that's why we wear new clothes. That's all. Red color, of course, you know, it's the lucky color. So we like to wear red new clothes.
I have a question on what does the Lantern Festival symbolize?
I would have to look at that again, but it traditionally follows the new year, and I guess it's just related to light. But I have to look into that.
Yeah, actually, I believe it's kind of like symbolizing because they're like paper lanterns with lights inside of them, and you can decorate them and then let them go at night. It's always really, really pretty. And I think it symbolizes like people letting go of their past selves and getting new ones for the new year. That's what I know of the Lantern Festival, but it's very pretty. If you have the opportunity to go to one, you definitely should. It's part of like the Lunar New Year celebrations, I believe, more towards like the end. Mm-hmm.
I have a question about the organization itself. We've been throwing around the letters OCA. Can you define OCA and who is membership open to?
That's an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking. OCA stands for Organization for Chinese Americans. However, in the last couple of years, OCA, which is a national nonprofit organization, has been working on rebranding to be more inclusive and more Asian American, and to include Pacific Islanders and more than just the Chinese and Chinese American community. And so now we're trying to rebrand OCA to be the OCA in advocates, the word advocates. So we're starting to use more and more in our branding about we're the advocates for the community in the San Mateo chapter. As far as membership goes, absolutely everyone is open to join and become a member. I'm happy to announce that I am waiving the membership fees because of the pandemic this year. At least 25% of our membership, maybe a little higher, has lost their jobs during this pandemic. And so membership is free. If you're interested, I highly encourage you to go to the OCA San Mateo website. You can just go to Google and type OCA San Mateo and we're going to pop up, and you can contact us, and we're happy to add you as a membership. We do a lot of really fun virtual events. We also have a newsletter. We do a lot of advocacy work. It's really just an absolutely great organization, and I welcome all of you to contact us and learn more.
I do, thank you. That's wonderful to hear. I do have a question about incense, and is it important to be used during the celebration of Lunar New Year?
Incense is used for as I can remember it, is used for ancestor worship. So I remember my mom putting incense and I think it's just sort of part of Buddhist tradition. Taoism is something that is practiced for ancestral worship. I personally don't do that myself, but ancestor worship, that would be one of the elements that they do use.
Yeah, actually, I can talk a little bit about that because my family does practice a little bit of that. During the Lunar New Year, we kind of have a display of like fruits and food, kind of like an offering to like your ancestors and like the gods up there. And basically what we do is we have each family member take like a few incense sticks and we light them, and you hold them like this, and then you say your prayers, your wishes, And you also say your thanks for like the past year. And then after you say all that, and then you bow 3 times and you stick it in this little like glass vase. And then basically the concept is like the food that is laid out on the table is going to kind of like go through the smoke and through the incense as an offering to like your ancestors, as an honoring.
Emily, it's great that you remember and that your family celebrates that tradition, because there is that ancestral thanking, and that's another custom that usually occurs every April. I think March, April, around the Easter holiday, where we all go to the cemeteries and make an offering to those that passed before us. And there's food and incense and the firecrackers. And again, our cultures are so rich in history, as we've talked about, that this is a great opportunity just to record them, document them, and pass them on to your generations and the generations following you.
I have 2 more questions. One, Aimee, there was a request to know the name of the cookbook that you were holding up.
Well, there's plenty of cookbooks. These are old that I've had in my collections. There's just so many that you can find nowadays, you know, online. You can even go on YouTube. I found a lot of great cooking shows on YouTube, and you can type in whatever dish you want. Just go to YouTube and you'll find how to prepare it. You see a demo, and it's actually better than looking at a cookbook nowadays. Okay, because these do get outdated and they're not interactive. I like looking at YouTube cooking channels. So these are really old. I'm not sure they're in print anymore, but they're bilingual. They have they're from Hong Kong or different places I've gone to. I would pick up a cookbook or 2, but I suggest YouTube. I think it's, you know, there's just so much more on YouTube.
Wait, Aimee, you're not going to promote your cookbook called Aimee Can Cook?
This Yan can't cook, honestly.
And Jeff, I know that you've spent quite a bit of effort now helping create an online lunar celebration that will happen later today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It goes back to your introduction, Carmen, and the History Museum has been a great partner for many years in our in-person Lunar New Year celebration. And unfortunately, due to the public health emergency, we're not able to get together in person this year. So this year, the year of the ox, I've had to take the Redwood City Lunar New Year celebration online and become virtual. And so this evening at 5 o'clock on the platform called Peninsula360press.com, we will have about an hour-and-a-half program covering some of the similar history of Lunar New Year, but will be more celebratory with performances, martial arts. We'll have a lion dance. I think OCA San Mateo is going to show some paper folding, if I recall correctly, some singing and music. And our co-host, my co-host joining me this evening are Virginia Chan Crawley, Harbor District Commissioner and Director on the Menlo Park Fire Protection District, and the San Mateo County Poet Laureate, Eileen Casaneto, the first Filipina Poet Laureate in San Mateo County. And so if you have time this evening, sign on to Peninsula360press.com or check out their social media channels and join us for a more celebratory Lunar New Year that we can't do in person. Thanks for that, Carmen.
You're welcome. And I would like to thank all of our panelists today for sharing their stories with us. I get this question after every webinar, so I will answer it now. Yes, we were recording today, and this program will be available on our website, the San Mateo County Historical Association website, for anyone who is interested or any one of you who have family and friends that you'd like to invite to watch it. I would also like to invite you all to join us for our next courthouse docket on Saturday, March 13th at 1 p.m. In honor of Women's History Month. Judge Amara Lee will be talking about her experiences. She is the first African-American woman judge in San Mateo County. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you soon at another courthouse docket, and hopefully we'll be able to welcome everyone back to the museum someday soon. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Be well, be safe, be healthy. Gong hei fa choi. Happy New Year.